I saw quite a bit of it, not start to finish, but I was in and out with some other games on hand. But Kansas State does it again in Norman, led by one Adrian Martinez. Wow, what are your takeaways?
Yeah, Mark, it was really, it was really shocking in a lot of different ways, Mark, for me. Just not necessarily that Oklahoma lost the game because I thought it was going to be a close game. As you mentioned, Kansas State always plays Oklahoma tough. They are, um, since joining the Big 12, they have played Oklahoma and won more games against Oklahoma than any other team in the conference. So, for whatever reason, and it's not just a Chris Kleiman thing. It was a Bill Snyder thing. It was just for whatever reason, Kansas State. Maybe it's the physicality up front that they play with, but on both sides of the ball. But um, I thought it would be a close game. But the manner in which Oklahoma lost was very troubling, concerning, based on the way that they played at this point through the year. And as we've talked a lot about this, and really kind of leading up to the game. Um, Last week, Mark, we had talked about on our side that this is the first. Yes, Nebraska was a nice win, but Nebraska's not a great team. They're not even probably what I would call a good team right now. And so this was going to be the first big test, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So, and I mentioned this in my post game. There's a lot of Oklahoma people that were very down on Dylan Gabriel after this game. Even some, mentioned that they believe that he could have been the reason, or one of the main reasons why Oklahoma lost the game. And so I just, yeah, just take an opportunity here. Yeah, there were some throws that he missed. Absolutely, he overthrew some guys, and he's got to get better. But at the end of the day, threw for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, has 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 66% completion percentage for the year. Yeah, he can get better, but that's pretty darn good. For your starting quarterback. But I think the two biggest things are the pre-snap penalties on the offensive side of the ball, which continue to kill them, um, throughout the game. Third down conversion defense gave up almost 50% against Kansas State, and just a lot of defensive regression. It looked like, and you could tell after the game, Mark Venables was really, really frustrated, not necessarily with the loss, not necessarily with the amount of points given up, but the shocking part of it was that you know they hadn't seen this through through fall practice, through through game prep, and through the first 3 games. They haven't seen a lot of missed tackles, a lot of overrunning plays, a lot of busted assignments. He even mentioned on the very last play on that 3rd and 16 play. Well, the play that really made it much more difficult for Oklahoma to win the game. And then they had a spy covered, and there was a bust. Someone forgot, whoever it was, forgot that specifically he was supposed to spy on Adrian Martinez, um, and so Mark, you look at a team that gave up over 500 yards, 41 points, um, was just shocking. I thought, coming into this game, I thought maybe 17 was probably what I would have thought. 17-20 was about the most that I thought Kansas State could score on Oklahoma. Yeah, Kansas State is a good team, but they came into this game as the 117th ranked offense in the country. Um, and I think the assumption was if you were able to handle Deuce Vaughn, then you're able to handle Kansas State. Well, they didn't necessarily do, obviously, either. Deuce Vaughn ran for over 100 yards. Um, I think I saw a stat where Adrian Martinez had more total yards in this game than he has had in the first 3 games combined. So it's just troubling in a lot of ways. You expected a much better Kansas State team that obviously played Tulane the week before, but um, probably not quite this good. So at the end of the day, it's one loss. I mean, you're as a coach, I think this is the thing that makes coaches crazy. something that you don't see in practice, you don't see in game, and then all of a sudden it happens. All these things happen at one time. So, so I think going back to the drawing board to a certain degree, right? Just to make sure their assignment sound, and focus on the little things, and all those things on the defensive side of the ball. But now you've got a really tough 2-game stretch here. Obviously, with you go to Fort Worth and face TCU, and then Red River. But all things considered, watching the game and then watching it back a little bit, if you would have told me that Oklahoma ran the ball for 220 yards, they had over I believe 550 yards of total offense, no turnovers, and you score 34 points, I would have thought Oklahoma would have won the game fairly easily. So, and as you have it here on the screen, Eric Gray was phenomenal in the running game. But what really
no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees are another reason
is what comes out is on the left side of your screen. Adrian Martinez had over what was that, some quick math, 391 yards, 381 yards of total offense, just by himself. No sacks, very little pressure, almost 300 yards rushing. So you gotta put this game, majority of it, on the defensive side of the ball, the third down conversions. But I think still at the end of the day, with all that being considered, Mark, you still had an opportunity. You had them back at 3rd and 16 with a chance to get the ball, down one possession to tie or send the game into overtime, or whatever would have happened.
Don't surrender to the skip button or your finals.
And you thought you had that opportunity, but you don't. So, anyways, Oklahoma needs to, as you mentioned, it's not the end of the season, right? It's Oklahoma has recovered from these types of losses in the past, early season losses to Kansas State, early season losses to Iowa State, and then have come back and still not only competed for, but have won a conference championship. So that's not out of the realm of possibilities. Now the Big 12 is more, it's better than it's ever been from top to bottom. But I think the one thing that a lot of people just need to, I think, understand here, and I mentioned this on the post game, but I think most people thought Oklahoma's ceiling probably was a Big 12 championship game. Now, me and you both thought this team could possibly, and they still could possibly squeak into the playoffs, but they weren't going to win a game in the playoffs. If things align, they had one blemish and they won the Big 12 championship, they probably would put themselves in position for a 4 seed or a 3 or 4 seed in the playoffs. But they're probably not where they can win a playoff game yet. But I think this team still has the opportunity to go and win a Big 12 championship. But they've got to make sure that consistency on the defensive side is good, and get rid of some of those pre-snap penalties. Those things shouldn't happen in Game 4, particularly at home. On the road, maybe it's a little bit of a different situation, but at home, that's something that you absolutely wouldn't expect. So we'll see how they bounce back. It's going to be really interesting for me. The first bit of adversity that this team has faced since Venables has been here on the field, and so it will be interesting to see how the kids bounce back from the loss.